So you want to get a quick handle on a startup before you even think about investing.
Mm.
Well, you're going to find yourself circling back to one fundamental thing.
Yeah.
Their core value.
Yeah.
And in today's world, right, everything's innovation, especially with these early stage ventures. That often boils down to one thing.
What's that?
Their IP, their intellectual property.
You hit on a key point there. In the current economic landscape, a startup's IP,
Yeah.
whether we're talking patents or
Right.
the secret sauce in their algorithms or the power of their brand or even like closely guarded trade secrets,
Yeah.
it's frequently their most significant asset.
Right.
It's what distinguishes them in the market,
Right.
what provides their competitive advantage, and very often dictates their future trajectory.
So for an investor like you, how do you really dig beneath the surface and ascertain what a startup truly possesses in terms of their IP?
Yeah.
And whether that IP lives up to the value they claim? That's where this concept of an IP audit comes in.
Exactly. Think of it as a detailed examination of a startup's intellectual assets.
Okay.
Like taking it to the shop, getting it looked at,
Yeah. Right.
really scrutinizing it.
So essentially, it's a structured, expert-led analysis of a startup's whole IP portfolio.
Precisely.
And that's typically done by folks like you, right? IP attorneys or specialist firms.
It is. That's the best practice.
Okay. And in this deep dive, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to dissect why these IP audits are so important for investors.
Absolutely.
We've compiled a range of insights here that should really clarify this.
Yep.
This often underestimated but critically important aspect of, how do you evaluate a startup?
It's easily overlooked.
Right. Our goal is to equip you, the listener, with the knowledge you need, sifting through the noise to highlight those key aha moments.
Because when you boil it down for investors, an IP audit yields essential information that can really sway the security and potential returns of their investment.
Right.
It's about looking beyond that initial excitement and understanding the concrete assets involved.
Okay. So let's unpack this a little bit.
Sure.
The first thing an IP audit helps to establish, at least in our notes, is what the startup actually owns.
Right.
We're talking about more than just their marketing materials here.
Oh, that's right. A startup might state that they possess a revolutionary patent or a game-changing algorithm, but an IP audit delves into the specifics. It verifies the existence and status of those patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets.
Right.
It provides that well-defined analysis of what this startup legally controls.
So it cuts through the hype.
Exactly.
And provides investors with a verified understanding of their actual tangible IP assets.
Exactly. Verifiable assets.
And it's not just about having some IP, is it?
No.
I mean, the information we looked at really underscores that this IP is often the most valuable asset the startup has.
It is. It's strategically the most important.
Yeah.
And this is particularly true for those early stage startups that may lack, substantial physical assets or a long history of revenue generation.
Of course.
Their innovation, as protected by IP, frequently represents their primary differentiator and the bedrock for their future expansion and dominance in the market.
This leads us to a critical point here.
Yeah.
You just can't rely solely on a startup's assertions regarding their IP.
No. Due diligence is key.
Right. And we have this compelling example here.
Oh, yeah.
The case of Theranos.
Right.
Can you remind us what happened there?
Theranos serves as a really, really powerful illustration of why thorough due diligence, especially concerning IP, is absolutely essential.
Yeah.
They claim to have this groundbreaking blood testing technology supported by a portfolio of patents. However, as we know, it became clear that the technology didn't work as advertised.
Right.
And their patents didn't translate into a genuine competitive edge.
Right. They had the formal documentation. The patents were on file.
Yeah.
But it didn't equate to a functional product or a strong position in the market.
Unfortunately not.
So how could an IP audit have provided insights for investors in that situation?
Well, beyond simply confirming the existence of patent filings, an insightful audit would have scrutinized the claims within those patents.
Okay.
Were they focused on the core scientific breakthrough they touted?
Yeah.
Or were they broader, less specific claims that wouldn't truly protect their supposed innovation?
Okay.
Identifying a disconnect there would have been a major red flag.
Right.
Furthermore, a robust audit would assess the patent scope.
Okay.
How easily could a competitor work around it?
Right.
And its enforceability? How readily could infringement be detected and challenged? These are all the layers an IP attorney would explore.
Right.
It helps ensure that the perceived value of the IP truly aligns with its real-world strength.
So it's not just a matter of, like, checking a box, patents held.
No.
It's about rigorously evaluating, do these patents offer meaningful protection?
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, another potential danger zone for investors is this issue of unclear ownership.
Yeah.
Our sources emphasize the critical need to verify who actually holds the rights to the IP.
This is fundamentally important.
Yeah.
Intellectual property can originate from various sources.
Yeah.
Co-founders, research conducted at universities, even previous employment. If the startup hasn't properly secured these rights through clear, legally sound IP assignment agreements, they might not actually own what they believe they do.
Oh, wow.
This documented history of ownership for the IP, often referred to as the chain of title, is critical.
Okay.
Ensuring there's a clear and unbroken line showing how the startup legally acquired the rights.
So this isn't just a hypothetical concern, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have that well-known example from the early stages of Facebook and the legal dispute with Connect.
Yes.
What was at the core of that issue?
Well, that legal battle centered on allegations that the founder of Facebook had misappropriated the initial concept and underlying code from Connectu.
Oh, wow.
While the details are intricate, the case highlights the significant risks of investing in a company where the ownership of core IP is uncertain or under dispute.
Right.
Such situations can lead to prolonged and expensive legal proceedings, potentially jeopardizing the entire investment.
So what specific actions does an IP attorney undertake during an audit to verify the legitimacy of IP ownership?
Well, they meticulously examine all relevant contracts, employment agreements, non-disclosure agreements, consulting contracts, and crucially, IP assignment agreements. They essentially trace that chain of title to definitively confirm that the startup possesses the full and exclusive rights to the IP, ensuring there are no outstanding claims from, prior employers or collaborators.
Moving on to another significant area of risk for startups and consequently for investors. The potential for infringing on existing IP rights held by others. This sounds like a legal tightrope walk.
It can be. It can be. That's why a vital component of an IP audit is what's called a freedom to operate analysis.
Okay, FTO.
That's right, FTO analysis. And this involves a thorough search of existing patents and trademarks to determine whether the startup's products or services might inadvertently violate the intellectual property rights of other entities.
And why is gaining this understanding so critical for you as an investor?
Well, because if a startup is found to be infringing, they could face substantial legal costs, court-ordered injunctions that halt their operations, significant financial penalties. We have that example of the litigation between Fitbit and Jawbone.
Yeah, that was a long one.
It was. What did that case illustrate?
I mean, that was a prime illustration of how patent disputes can be incredibly expensive and have the potential to severely disrupt a company's strategic plans, even causing delays in the introduction of new products to the market.
Exactly.
So an FTO analysis, essentially it helps investors identify and avoid those kinds of legal time bombs.
Precisely. By identifying potential infringement risks early in the process, investors can make more informed decisions and avoid backing companies that might be on a collision course with those expensive and disruptive legal battles down the line. It's about ensuring that startup has a clear pathway to commercialization without stepping on anyone's toes.
Now, simply holding a patent doesn't automatically guarantee a startup's success, right? I mean, our sources emphasize the need to look beyond just the existence of the patent document itself.
Absolutely. That's a crucial distinction to make. While a patent grants the holder the exclusive right to prevent others from using, making, or selling the invention, its strategic value hinges on several key factors. IP attorneys evaluate the scope of the patent claims. How broad or narrow is the protection that it affords? Imagine a patent claiming a blue widget. That's a very broad claim. A narrow claim might be for a widget made of recycled blue plastic with a specific gear mechanism.
Okay.
So a good audit assesses how easy would it be for competitors to design around those claims.
Right.
They also assess the uniqueness of the invention.
Okay.
Is it truly novel and non-obvious?
Yeah.
And they consider its enforceability.
Mm-hmm.
How easy would it be to detect and successfully take action against infringement?
So a patent with very limited claims might be relatively easy for competitors to just work around, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Similarly, a patent on an invention that isn't truly unique might be vulnerable to legal challenges.
Okay.
And could even be invalidated.
Oh, wow.
The real strategic advantage comes from possessing strong, defensible IP.
Right.
That directly supports the startup's overall business objectives.
The sources touch on this concept of a competitive moat.
Yes.
What does that signify in this context?
Think of a medieval castle surrounded by water.
Okay.
The moat acts as a barrier, making it difficult for attackers to reach the castle.
Right.
In the business world, a robust IP portfolio can function as that moat.
Okay.
Making it significantly more challenging for competitors to enter the market or easily replicate the startup's products or services.
So IP attorneys are skilled at evaluating whether the startup's patents and other forms of IP genuinely create that kind of barrier to entry.
They are.
Okay.
They also consider how the startup is strategically leveraging its IP.
Okay.
We even have that interesting example of Tesla's approach to their patents.
Right.
What was notable about their strategy?
I mean, Tesla famously made the decision to open up their patent portfolio.
They did.
Right. I mean, their aim wasn't to exclude competitors,
Right.
but rather to encourage the broader adoption and development of electric vehicle technology, which ultimately benefited Tesla as a leading player in that evolving market.
Exactly. And that's an excellent illustration of how a well-thought-out IP strategy can extend beyond simple exclusivity and be used to accelerate overall market growth and strengthen a company's leadership position.
Now let's consider the future for a minute.
Okay.
For many investors, the ultimate goal is a successful exit.
Yeah.
Whether through an acquisition by another company or an IPO.
Sure.
How does a strong IP portfolio factor into that process?
Well, a clean, well-organized, and comprehensively documented IP portfolio is a significant asset when it comes to future monetization and exit opportunities. You know, potential acquiring companies. Yeah. They conduct their own in-depth IP due diligence.
Right.
And any unresolved issues or uncertainties can really negatively impact the valuation of the deal.
Okay.
Or even cause it to fall apart entirely.
So a poorly managed IP situation can actually reduce the acquisition price.
Absolutely.
Or even deter potential buyers.
Without question. Conversely,
Yeah.
a robust and well-maintained IP portfolio signals a mature and valuable company.
Makes sense.
The sources highlight Google's acquisition of Motorola Mobility.
Yeah.
What made that a noteworthy example in this context?
Because a substantial portion of the, multi-billion-dollar acquisition price was directly attributed to Motorola's extensive patent portfolio.
It was.
That's a clear demonstration of the considerable value that patents can hold in an acquisition scenario.
And an IP audit plays a crucial role
Yeah.
in ensuring that the startup has everything in order.
Okay.
That all necessary filings are up to date,
Right.
that they have adequate jurisdictional coverage for their IP, and that the rights are readily transferable, all of which makes them a more attractive acquisition target.
It sounds like navigating this whole world of startup IP requires really specialized knowledge.
It does.
And that brings us to the importance of engaging the expertise of professional IP attorneys.
Right.
Why is their involvement so critical for these audits?
Professional IP attorneys bring a unique combination of legal expertise and a deep understanding of the intricacies of IP law and documentation.
Right.
They are equipped to go far beyond a superficial review and provide a thorough validation of ownership, conduct comprehensive FTO analyses, and offer a nuanced assessment of the strategic advantages conferred by the IP.
So they're not just performing a quick procedural check.
No.
They're conducting a detailed and insightful investigation.
Precisely.
Okay.
They possess the specialized knowledge to identify potential pitfalls that a general business lawyer or an investor might overlook. They understand the specific requirements and interpretations of patent claims,
Right.
the nuances of trademark law, the established best practices for safeguarding trade secrets.
Okay.
Their expert insights can be invaluable in accurately assessing the true strength and defensibility of a startup's innovation.
So it's evident that for many early-stage startups,
Yeah.
particularly those in tech or biotech sectors, their IP represents their most valuable asset.
Often it does, yes.
So for investors, relying on anything less than a comprehensive IP audit appears to be a significant risk.
It is. When a startup possesses limited physical assets, their IP often constitutes the core of their value proposition.
Yeah.
Making an investment decision without a clear and verified understanding of that IP is akin to making a bet without knowing the fundamental details.
Right.
An audit unveils both the strengths and the weaknesses, including potential gaps in ownership, risks of infringement, expired filings, and even instances where the perceived value of the IP may be overstated or the protection is weak.
So it provides that holistic view of the startup's innovation value.
Exactly.
And the robustness of its protection.
That's right.
And ultimately, what does all of this information gleaned from an IP audit? What does it enable investors to do?
The insights derived from a thorough IP audit empower investors to make much more informed investment decisions. They gain leverage in negotiations, can identify those potential red flags early in the due diligence process, and develop a clearer understanding of the inherent risks and potential rewards associated with the investment. It helps ensure that valuations are based on verifiable IP assets rather than solely on optimistic projections or claims.
So to summarize, it sounds like an IP audit isn't just like a recommended step.
No.
It's an essential tool for investors who want to truly grasp a startup's fundamental value.
Absolutely.
And avoid potentially costly oversights.
It's a critical instrument for navigating the complexities of startup investment in today's innovation-driven economy. By conducting that detailed examination of the IP, investors can move beyond the initial excitement, make more strategic decisions, and hopefully identify those aha moments that indicate a truly promising investment opportunity.
Now, reflecting on all of this, if you're an investor currently evaluating a startup, what specific follow-up questions about their IP might you now be considering? What further avenues of investigation might seem valuable after our discussion today?
It's a good question.
I mean, it really highlights that understanding a company's intellectual property is an ongoing and critical aspect of due diligence.
Yeah, it is.
And undertaking a thorough deep dive at the outset is absolutely essential.
Couldn't agree more.